Look at this fight. Looks great, right? The animation quality is through the roof, the storyboards are cool and creative, the general presentation is pristine. It's a great looking fight, right? Wrong. It's actually over animated. How dare the staff present us with something good? We wanted something bad. How dare this visual medium be visual? The animation in this animated scene from an anime is too animated. The manga doesn't move. Why can't the anime respect that and be faithful to it? How dare it move? Anime fans have done it again. Just when you thought you had seen the stupidest production related take out there, they came through with something even stupider. Over animation, it's probably the most meaningless, counterproductive argument ever. Or is it? It is. Good god, that's the third plot twist in the first 30 seconds. The retention's about to be through the roof, isn't it? 3 people got that joke. Anyway, at face value, the term over animation sounds absolutely ridiculous, at least it does, to people who take an interest in the subject of animation like myself. But what does it mean exactly? What makes people think that a scene is over animated? And is there some truth behind the concept? Well, let's talk about it. I briefly touched on this topic in my previous video, but I felt like it deserved a bit more attention and that there were more views that could be squeezed out of it, so here we are. Also, I know I made that meme tweet the other day and that it preceded the recent surge in the usage of the term, but I'm not letting you motherfuckers put the blame on me. The term over animation has existed since long before I even had a Twitter account, and I had one since before that man-child took over. I remember over animation takes being hurled at the god of high school, which aired a couple of years back. What do you mean it's been 5 years? No, it hasn't. Point is, the term has been around for a while, but that doesn't make it any less stupid. In fact, let's get this out of the way first. There is no such thing as over animation. The term makes no sense, objectively speaking. Animation, by definition, is movement. How can there be too much movement in a medium based around video? Bad movement or misdirected movement, sure, but not too much movement. I get that anime is a fairly economical medium that cuts corners whenever possible and that some of you might be accustomed to its corner cutting ways. But come on, how are we hating on an anime for being too animated? Think about that for a second. Think of how stupid that sounds. We'll talk more about the nuances of the subject and some of the stuff people conflate with over animation in a bit, but first, let's talk about the origins of the term. Ready? Here goes. I don't know. Moving on, no, I'm not entirely sure when the term over animation came about. Like I said, I remember the take being hurled at the god of high school, which had checks notes 5 years ago. I don't like how time works. But those remarks were few and far in between. I feel like the popularization of the term is a lot more recent. And I feel One Piece had a major role to play in the adoption of the term due to no fault of its own. That's also the reason why this video is titled something along the lines of the One Piece problem. See, the title wasn't misleading after all. Okay, maybe it was a bit misleading, but it's not a big deal, right? Back to One Piece, those grand action set pieces animated by the likes of Vincent Chansard and Akihiro Ota were some of the first works to get hit with the over animation allegations to a substantial extent. Some things never change, eh? The most recent Vincent sequence, the one I used near the start of this video, please don't copyright nuke me Toei, is facing similar critiques, if you can call them that. Why though? Where did these, quite frankly, brain-dead opinions come from? And for what purpose do they exist? Well, I have a theory and it's actually quite simple. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the way mainstream shonen bros do everything in their power to discredit other shows. Not exactly a surprise, considering most of them are either 12 or 35 and unemployed. When One Piece comes through with a fantastic looking episode, a thing that happens way too often for a long running show, a part of the internet tries their level best to discredit the quality. Back in the day, they used to refer to anything that was volumetric and well drawn as CGI. They even had the audacity to call Shinya Ohira's animation AI, but those allegations could be easily disproven. You think this is CGI? Boom, it's hand-drawn and here's proof. You know what can't be disproven though? Over animation, because 1, it's not real, and 2, it's a subjective concept. And with that, shonen bros had gotten their hands on a new superpower. At the expense of their reputation amongst communities who know what they are talking about, shonen bros could easily discredit and demean flawless works from shows they didn't like. These days, everything is over animated. One Piece is, Jujutsu Kaisen is, Chainsaw Man is, Super Cube is, it's everywhere. Thankfully, ufotable shows can dodge those allegations because they are still busy dealing with the cadet by compositing takes, but that doesn't make it any better. The term term sucks. Best case scenario, actual valid takes and opinions get covered by the over-animation blanket because the critic lacks the verbal ability and knowledge needed to articulate their issues. And worst case scenario, it's used as a technically irrefutable weapon for downplaying and diminishing the works of countless artists in pursuit of victory in one's juvenile shonen wars. Either way, it's moronic, so much so that I can't even come up with a take in its favor to debunk. Let's instead talk about actual valid problems and issues with certain scenes and episodes that often get conflated with over-animation. These are critiques that when used correctly can be valid, it's just that they mostly aren't. I'll focus on action here because you don't really see non-action scenes being painted with the over-animation brush. You don't really see non-action scenes move to begin with. Think of this section as the spiritual successor to that choreography video I made 10 months ago. That's the running theme of this video, the concept of time not making any sense. Over the past few years, there has been an increase in the number of takes along the lines of this scene is doing too much visually. The idea is that the team is doing more than what they need to, and as a result, the scene lacks focus and looks more like visual noise. And that's not exactly invalid, it can happen, but as is customary, most of these takes aren't exactly based in reality. Here's the thing, the concept of context doesn't register with most people, which is genuinely unfortunate. People fail to comprehend the fact that a friendly spar and a fight to the death will look different in terms of both structure and magnitude. They don't realize that a grounded fight taking place in a confined space won't feature the same choreography as a fight featuring two characters who can level cities with each attack. Fights like these, looking the way they do, are not the team doing too much, it's the team not doing not enough. Did I say that correctly? Not doing not enough, that's a double negative. Yup, nailed it. Point is, context matters, but for some reason fans refuse to acknowledge that. Animators like Yutaka Nakamura, the Bones Cube Man, and Nozomu Abe, the Ufotable Effects Man, tend to animate the climactic conclusions from major fights, which makes the over-the-top nature of their works justified. Vincent Chansard is Vincent Chansard, which makes his output justified. In all seriousness, going back to the fight we started this video with, I've been told that this guy uses light as his ability and that he's using the reflective properties of it to move around, which is really fucking clever. Guess what some fans thought though? They thought the scene was too bright and flashy. What's that? The scene featuring the guy whose entire ability is light looks bright? Who would have thunk it? Vincent usually puts a lot of thought into his sequences. Can some of his work come off as a bit much? Based on the plethora of out-of-context One Piece scenes I've seen, yes. Some of his output can feel like there's way too many ideas involved, like Vincent is overwhelming the screen with his absurd draftsmanship to hide the lack of clear intent. But that's a minor issue in the grand scheme of things. Here's the thing, more often than not, animators who are capable of creating absurdly good-looking action scenes are more than capable of grasping the fundamentals of direction. Rarely, if ever, will you see a scene with such an absurd amount of animation power feature juvenile storyboards and construction. Another phrase fans love to throw around is difficult to follow, and it too is moronic in my opinion. Who said a fight needs to be easy to follow? It doesn't, it depends on the context. What does matter, however, is the construction of the fight at a technical level. The way the shots flow into each other, the way the fight builds, the rising and falling action, the competency of the animation, that stuff. If a fight nails these aspects, it will look good. Even if a fight is difficult to follow, as long as it maintains these metrics, your brain will look at it and go, I don't exactly know what's happening, but it looks like it makes sense. Case in point, basically everything animator Yoshihiro Kanno has ever animated, or Sukuna vs Mahoraga. In case of the latter, episode director Hakuyu Go just straight up said his intention was for fans to revel at the spectacle of it instead of following each action. Think about it, the two combatants are so strong that they defy human logic. Why should their fight be neat and comprehensible? Is that a word? Comprehensible? Anyway, point is, the team doing too much or the fight being difficult to follow isn't inherently a bad thing. In fact, more often than not, it adds to the overall experience. Even if these aspects are abused, the problem lies with either the direction or the quality of the animation, not the quantity of it. For the love of God, over-animation is not a real thing. And that should just about do it. This was just a topic I wanted to cover. Liked the video? Check out this other bit of content on screen, like and subscribe, and until next time.